So the Bible says that for this reason shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Okay. Now for you people who will sit there and say that this means that you can only have one wife, how about the rest of that verse? You have to hold on, to be consistent, you have to hold on to the rest of the verse. Meaning that where the Bible says, for this reason, doesn't say this is a reason, it's saying this is the reason why a man leaves his father and mother. In other words, that's the only reason to leave your father and mother's house is to get married. Married, you know. So you have to apply that to it too. But here's the problem with that. That means over 95, probably close like 99% of men, that would make ineligible for marriage. First of all, you have to think about the orphans. You know, for, you know, either their parents died, abandoned them, or they were taken from their parents. They had already left their parents' house then. You know, or the parents left them. Which means they cannot leave their parents' house to get married. Okay? And how many people, men, leave their parents' house when they turn 18 or before they get married? I would say close to nearly every one of them. There might be 1 or 2% that will actually live with their parents until they get married. And the big reason for this is, you know, if you're living with your parents, it's going to be about impossible to get married. Because that's a red flag. And how about the people who grew up in single parent househoods? You know, they might be able to, you know, if they're still these men are still living at home whenever they get married, that means they're only leaving one parent. You know, and if I remember correctly, that's like at least 1/3 of all Americans eliminated right there. It's even worse if you're black, because statistically about 70% of black people are raised in single mother households, which would, by that verse, disqualify them from getting married, because they can only leave their mother's house. They can only leave their mother. They can't leave their father, because their father's not, because they don't live with their father. And how many of them don't even know who their father is? You know? Or how about if you leave your parents' house to join the military or something? That means you've already left their house. You didn't leave it to get married. That means that would disqualify you from being able to get married, because you can't leave your parents if you've already left them. I know what you're going to say, but you can always go back, yeah. But here's the problem with that, too. A lot of people will use that as an excuse to say, well, the reason you can't have a second wife is because you've already left your parents for the first wife. Okay? But if you're using that logic, then you also, like I said, have to say that if you leave your parents' house for any reason besides to get married, then that disqualifies you from getting married. And if you say, well, they can always go back to their parents' house, well, that means if I've got a wife, then all I have to do to take a second one is to move back in with my parents, with my family, then I can take a second wife. Well, I mean, you have to apply the logic evenly here. You know? Now, I mean, there's just too many things that would disqualify you from being married if that was true. And you have to apply that part just as much as you do the end of it. I mean, how many people, if you actually applied to that verse consistently and it actually says what you say it is, that means means, you can't get married. If that verse supports monogamy only, then it also supports, supports that you have to leave your father and mother's house to get married. That has to be the reason you leave their house, not any other reason. Or that would disqualify you from getting married. Like, okay, I'm an adult. One of my parents dies. I can't get married now because I can't leave their house. Because I can't leave my father because he died before I got married. Or both of them died before I got married. Or they got divorced before I got married. Or I never knew one of them. Or I never knew them. You see how ridiculous that is? Now, I will give more respect to the people that says yes. That would say yes. You can't get married unless you leave your parents' house to get married. I would respect somebody who says that a lot more than what I would say to somebody that says, "Oh, you can get married. Oh, you've already left your parents' house. Oh, that don't matter." But even though that verse says that that's the reason to leave your parents, that's not a law. Oh, but the next part to cleave to his wife and become one flesh, oh, that definitely second half of that verse is a law, and it's saying that you can only have one wife. So come on, people. You're smarter than this.